Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Very good. Well, thank you all for coming, and good evening. Welcome to the Elk River Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum for ISD 728 School Board. My name is John Holton. I'm a board member for the Elk River Chamber of Commerce, and on behalf of the Chamber Government Relations Committee, I'm your moderator for tonight's event. I'd like to start by thanking the ISD 728 thanking the ISD 728 district offices for allowing us to use this space and use of their recording equipment for our forum. And I'd also like to thank the candidates for being here tonight to help us provide important information for voters before they head to the polls. Tonight's event is being recorded and will be replayed on the Chamber's website and social media channels. Now, before I read the kind of rules for the event, I'm going to break one of the rules that I'm going to read in a moment and say I would like to have everybody give a hand to all our candidates for taking the time and putting themselves through this. It's a necessary part of a healthy democracy, but it's not easy to do what these folks are about to do tonight. The Elk River, this is the fine print. The Elk River Chamber does not assume any party affiliation, nor do we endorse any candidate. We're hosting this forum to provide information about the candidates to the general public. Since this is a public information forum and not a campaign event, we respectfully request that all candidate and audience members refrain from applause or comments that could cause a disruption during the live broadcast forum. I know it's tempting to respond positively, negatively, or in some other fashion. Please keep that to less than a bare minimum so we can keep the event moving. This is a candidate forum. It's not a town hall meeting. I'm joined tonight by Melissa Fermoil, who is a member of the Chamber's Board of Directors and Government Relations Committee. She'll be the timekeeper and will provide you with a signal. This is the part that pertains to you folks, so I'm going to turn around. She will provide you with a signal when you have 30 seconds to wrap up your thought or comment. When you see the red signal, that means you've gone over the time limit and should stop immediately. Each candidate will answer the same questions. We will rotate the order of who answers the questions first, second, etc. Each candidate will be given 1 to 2 minutes to respond to each question asked. The questions are based on responses from members about topics that are important to them. All questions will be asked by the moderator and a time limit will be given. A timekeeper will keep time for the candidates. Additional questions have been submitted, and if we have time at the end of the event, I will read a selection of the questions that have been submitted this evening by folks in the audience. Questions? I should also take the time to make sure that we introduce Deb Freiberg, who is our Chamber Executive Director, and without whom these events simply would not be possible. So last time we break this rule, thank you, Deb. Thank you. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to jump into this. Ready? Okay. Question number 1. Introduce yourself and let us know, given the statutory scope and requirements on school boards, what impact do you want to make during your term in office? This is a 2-minute question, so introduce yourself and let us know, given the statutory scope and requirements that are on school boards, what impact do you want to make during your term in office? And we will start right here on the end with Kim.
Thank you. My name is Kim Michels. I am a current school board member running for re-election and one of the at-large positions. So I'm just finishing up my first term and have 4 children in the district and am looking to just continue the work that we've been doing. We've had a lot of obviously pandemic-related issues going on. Looking forward to making sure that our graduates leave here with a well-rounded set of skills so that they can positively participate in the community and give back to our community, making sure that they, regardless of what their career path is, whether it's from trades to college to any other career path, that we've given them all of the opportunities to explore those opportunities here before they...
Kim, could I have you pull your microphone close? And if everybody else wants to take the opportunity to do that, thank you.
Okay.
Get close to it if you can.
Okay. We're going to get a little closer here. Like I said, just make sure all of our graduates are ready to go out and be productive members of the community, regardless of what their career paths are or what their life is afterwards, and that they feel connected to our community, that they want to come back and contribute to it. Make sure that everybody, all of our kids have the skills to work collaboratively together, and we're making those academic benchmarks for everybody in our district.
Very good, thank you. We'll just go right down the line on this first question.
My name is J. Brian Calva, and I work in this community. I've worked for Beaudrill and Propane for a real long time, so I'm familiar with the area, certainly. I have a daughter that goes to Vandenberg. I have 3 grandchildren that are at Lincoln right now, so I'm going to have kids in the system for a real long time, and so I definitely want to be involved. The way I see myself adding value on the school board, if I were elected, is I know that I can be a bridge. My wife and I, when I'm not at work and when she's not at work, she and I are marriage coaches. So we deal with messy. We deal with some very interesting situations, and praise God, we have a lot of success in it as well. But because we do that, we have learned that one of the biggest obstacles when there is contention in the world, in marriages, in life, and families, it has to do with people not feeling heard, one member or the other. And what I think I can do if I were on the school board is I can be a bridge to different perspectives. I have a perspective, other people on the board have perspectives too. And I think everybody's perspectives need to be heard, including mine. But I feel like I can be a bridge between various groups, because through collaboration we can get way more done rather than just arguing and not feeling heard.
Thank you. Crissy, same question.
I am Crissy Uttech. I am a wife, a mother of 2 in the district. I have a 7th grader at Rogers Middle School and a 9th grader at Rogers High School. I hold a current Minnesota teaching license. I'm a former high school teacher, former media assistant at Prairie View Elementary and Middle School, and I am a current substitute in our district. The impact I would want to make in our district is to make sure we are recognizing our teachers for their expertise and their experience, to make sure our staffing positions are more appealing so that teachers will want to stay in our district, as well as attracting support staff in all areas. Hold high academic expectations while providing support for students who need them, and ensuring that we provide curriculum that's representative of the world around our students. I would also like to ensure that everyone that walks into the buildings of ISD 728 feel welcome.
Thank you. John, I'm going to read the question again so that the audience can get refreshed, and so can you. Introduce yourself and let us know, given the statutory scope and requirements placed on school boards, what impact do you want to make during your term in office?
Gotcha. Just a little bit about me. You know, I have a motto: learn, earn, and serve. And I've gone through the learning part, earning part, and now I'm in the backside of my life here, and worked for a company for almost 37 years. And I believe that great schools can create great communities. Now, I have been married to my wife since 1988, Peg, and she's been a rock that I can depend on and support with my children. I have 7 children right now, 3 that graduated from Zimmerman, 1 from Rivers Christian Academy, and I have 3 more currently at Westwood and Zimmerman Middle School. So I have a lot of skin in the game here. And I was worked for a multinational company, traveled all over the world. And what happened is when COVID hit, I was stuck at home for a year and a half almost with no travel. So the brakes got hit pretty hard. And now I had 3 kids running around the house during the day trying to do school. They're all IEP'd, and it was a real struggle. And we saw the devastation that occurred with the lockdowns. And it was really a disaster because it pushed all of our children almost a year delay, at least, in learning because of the lockdowns. Those mandates really hurt us. And one of the things that I would like to do is to make sure that we put more transparency back into the system, give parents a voice, and look at curriculum, look at safety, school safety, to make sure kids aren't bullied. And those are some of the areas that I'd like to focus on and accomplish if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Sarah, same question.
Hello, my name is Sarah Hamlin. My husband, Dave, and I have lived in Elk River for 23 years. 3 of our 5 kids have graduated from ISD 728, and our youngest is a freshman. I had more than 20 years of experience in the early childhood field before I earned my master's degree in clinical social work. I'm a mental health play therapist in Elk River, working mostly with kids who have trauma. I feel I'm qualified for this school board position because I understand the importance of quality mental health services for all learners in our schools, and it will be a top goal of mine to ensure access to mental health services. I will strongly advocate for the funding our schools should be receiving. I will work to make sure the policies we have in place to protect and support all students are up to date so everyone feels safe in ISD 728. And I will work to ensure the community will have access to not only the decisions the board makes, but also the discussions that led to those decisions.
Thank you, Sarah. Mindy.
Hi, I just wanted to start off with saying I thank the Elk River Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. Thank you for the opportunity to meet more members of our community. I'm Mindy Freiberg, and I'm running for School Board District 1, serving the northern half, Zimmerman and Elk River cities. I'm a mother of 2 girls and an owner of a small business doing preschool and daycare in Zimmerman. Like many of you, during the pandemic and as other issues with the public education around the country arose, I started getting involved, attending school board meetings, being involved in parent groups and other members of the community. Between school safety, curriculum transparency, and obstacles that hinder parent and constituent participation at school board meetings, and while I'm out talking with members of the community, I hear, let's get back to the basics and smaller class sizes. I believe with having better constituent leadership, we can change things, and I will be the voice for the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Shane.
Well, John, first and foremost, thank you to you and the Chamber for doing this. Really appreciate it. Shane Steinbrecher, was born and raised in Nowthen. I went through the Elk River education system here, graduated from Elk River High School. Live in Livonia Township, been married to my wife, Carrie, for 20 years, have 3 kids. My oldest daughter just graduated from Zimmerman. My son is in 9th grade and my daughter's in 4th grade. I started my business when I was 16 years old in this community and have grown it up to have 16 employees. I'm very business-minded and oriented in doing that. A few things that I bring to the table as a school board member is I've served on the board for 12 years. In serving on 12 years, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the district, the growth in it, and seen that. Prior to that, I was on the legislative action team. I spent 4 years with our representatives down at the state understanding how rules are made, finance, and all of that stuff. And after 4 years, I think I understand about 1% of it. It's a very complicated system. When I am on the board and applying things, I use the same stuff I do in the private sector business to look at things. I was a big part of the CTE program to bring that in, to have students ready for career and tech. I think it's important that we align with our businesses and we prepare them students for the real world. If you're a business owner and you're in the workforce, you understand the skills that are needed, and as a school district, we need to understand those because we're in the teaching and learning business and we can teach the skills once we know them. I work well with all members of the board. I've been on the board 12 years, as I said, worked with many different board members and collaborate to work through the difficult decisions and to make it. Most importantly, I know the facts. I'm informed before I make a decision. I have all the information, I ask the questions, and I make a decision based on that. And finally, I apply common sense.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, I think we're going to try passing the mic to help. We have the HVAC kick on, so it's harder to hear out the back. So we'll just pass the mic around.
Okay, I'm going to read the next question. This one involves spending priorities. In May of 2022, the state legislature identified a proposal that would spend down some of the state's $9 billion estimated surplus, known as the 4-4-4 deal. That deal called for $1 billion to be spent in education. How would you propose to spend any one-time dollars that may be available if legislators are able to come to agreement during the next legislative session? And I'm going to start this one with Sarah. If you just want to pass it to whomever when you're...
Okay. So the reality...
You do my job for me.
The reality is that what happens with the state surplus is kind of out of our hands, but if it happens to be reallocated to the schools, it's not going to be a huge amount, and it's a short-term fix for a long-term issue, and so I will work to fix the funding formula.
Well, the $1 billion surplus, well, the surplus in Minnesota is huge, and that's taxpayer money. And one of the things that we have to do is be accountable for how we spend it. And if we have $1 billion allocated and we get an allotment here in the district, I think the thing that we need to do is get together with the community and find out what are the needs. Some of the things I've heard about talking to teachers is class sizes. Maybe look at funding some more teachers to lower overall class sizes, and maybe we can focus on certain grades that would make the bigger impact. There's other areas of improvements that we could make, but again, I think it's going to take a consensus. It's not one person that decides how to spend that much money. So that's where I'd be coming from.
Like Sarah had said, a lot of the times the money that comes from the state has a lot of mandates along with it. If the mandates were not there, I would be all for a plan that would help grow programs that benefit our students the most. I would love to see the state surplus spent on areas that are student-focused, academic, social, mental health supports, and those things that would increase academic performance. It's hard to say hiring more teachers for a one-time spending money because it would be difficult to sustain that. So that one would be hard, but I'd be looking for other things that would reduce teacher stress, making our support staff positions more appealing so that all those positions can be filled.
It's such a loaded question because it's really in the big picture, it's not that much money. It's certainly not our money. It's, you know, an argument could be made that it's a surplus and we should be involving the people that created the surplus in how we decide to spend it. But if it were up to the board, you know, maybe divided up amongst all the schools, this turns out to be maybe $3.5 million per school or something. I'm not a math guy, but when our school budget is $187 million and we're talking about sort of a one-time only $3.5 million, I'm not sure what all we can do with that. But I can tell you what we've been hearing over the course of this summer. And even when we were when we got a chance to meet the unions certainly did not support me, but I heard them loud and clear. I heard what all three groups said when they were talking to me, and they were saying that they felt underrepresented, underfunded. Their insurance depends on which group you were in. You had different insurance or not as good insurance or something. There were folks that felt that they were being underserved. And I suppose that those are places where I might start looking, as helping with that, helping with staffing, helping with paras. You know, I have a grandchild that got lost in the school district for 20 minutes last year because a para that he started the school year with, who was excellent, it was either downsized or they moved on or whatever the situation was, but he no longer had that para, and that para was excellent. But then we ran into a situation where he actually got lost. For 20 minutes, they found him down the street, but the point is, that's an area, I suppose, where I would want to put some funding as well. There's all kinds of places. The arts, choir robes being laundered, pianos being tuned. These are things that actually aren't in the budget right now.
Yeah, and I agree that as we start to develop our new strategic plan and are out in the community listening to those people, then we're going to see more and more of those areas where we can use some of this money. And as everybody said, it's a one-time fund, so it is more difficult to make investments in staffing and stuff because it's not sustainable that way. But what you can do is find different ways to make lives easier for those staff or for our students, whether that's investing in technology or new programs or new supplies and so forth throughout our district, so that when those things will still be there after the money's gone and things that they still can continue to use for years to come.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, Shane, the budget question.
Excellent, great question. If there were the money there, I would work with the board and I would look at a pilot program or pilot programs. What you can do with a pilot program is you can try it, do the research on it, understand how it was affected, bring it back, and then most importantly, when you're done with that one-time money, you need to sit down as a board and understand, do we want to continue in some of these areas we piloted? For example, if we help with behavioral issues in younger students or more stuff for CTE for the high schoolers, things like that, to evaluate that program, but then to come back and say, okay, we want to continue to invest in this program, what are we no longer going to do? How do we want to take money out of our general fund and continue to fund this program? And so that's what's really important with one-time money, is to look at a pilot program or pilot programs, if you can have multiple ones, set them up to get all the information out of them so when they're done, you know whether you're going to continue with it or not.
You know, it could be in a questionable amount of money with the inflation and during this recession, but if it was that way after legislation, I would think the school board should sit down with the community, and I'd want to further academics. So listen to what the people want. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Now I feel more like a game show host since we're all sharing a microphone. So in that spirit, I'll wander around up here a little bit. Next question involves the strategic plan. The current strategic plan was developed with input from parents, community members, business leaders, students, staff, and teachers, and is intended to set direction through 2023. What needs to be addressed in the next strategic plan for 2024 and beyond within the district? And I'm going to pitch this off to Crissy first.
Thank you. The next strategic plan also has to be driven from data, just like the last one, collected at the World Cafes and all the building meetings with all the staff. This will ensure the direction that the district takes in the next 5 years is driven by parents, community members, staff, and students. So that personally, I can't say exactly where our community would like to see our district to go. But as a parent, personally, my input would be I would like to see the achievement gap closed, as well as reaching the goal of all third graders reaching reading at grade level.
Thanks. When I looked at the last strategic plan, it gave percentages of where they were going to be putting emphasis or where folks thought emphasis should be. And it was 34% for academic opportunities, 16.7% for future growth, 15.5% for mental and physical wellness, 11.1% for digital learning, and so on. And as I looked at that, I think it's always fair to say that most everybody up here on the podium, if you will, would be for increasing academic opportunities. I would like one thing that we put more focus on is other vocational opportunities for students post high school once they graduate. That might not include college. And I know that some teachers have a heart for this as well. But I would like for the schools to be able to somehow involving local businesses, getting more involved in teaching kids what other options they might have besides college education or moving on to other things. I know that there's a huge need for that, certainly a huge need in the workforce. And I think that's it for now.
Thanks. I think there's still a lot of good building blocks from our current strategic plan, and we've heard a lot of those comments throughout the community, through our all the community cafes and meetings that we've been having, and look forward to hearing more of that information. As some of the other have said, that the CTE program, growing that and the opportunities available to our students to even explore those things and have touches with all of those different opportunities for post-graduation, and have a little bit more direction as they go out into the world, whether that is, you know, you don't spend those first 2 years, if you are going to college, don't spend those first 2 years picking a major. You've already had exposure to some of them to find a direction where your real passion is. Having more of those opportunities for internships and growth while you're still at the schools. Also really focusing on those social and life skills while we're here too. Same thing, preparing them to go out and be self-sufficient, be part of the community and contribute right away. And also part of the more student community leadership and even mentorship. And I know we do it a lot now, but even more getting back in touch with the lower grade levels and more leadership and team building through those programs.
Thank you, Kim.
Absolutely. So with the strategic plan, I've been part of 3 of them as a process. When I first got on the board, it was very internal. The district was in a different place. We needed to build trust and stuff among administration and things like that. The second one was very open to the public. It was amazing. There were thousands of people that had their fingerprint on it, community cafes, things like that. And when it came back to the board, it was our roadmap that helped guide us to where we are today. And a lot of the information in there and a lot of the goals that we've worked through have been amazing and have come from the community members. The key to a good strategic plan is buy-in for everybody. We're starting off very well. 2 weeks ago in Rogers, we had our first kickoff. I was there. It was awesome. We had students, parents. It was great to sit at the table and listen to the students directly and get the information and understand what they need and what they're seeing in our schools. Parents was awesome too, from all over different ends of the district. I would encourage everybody here to come next Monday, 7 o'clock, Elk River High School is the World Cafe for here. Come and be part of it. It's awesome. This is a big process, and we need to have everybody involved and at the table. Once all that information is put together, it then comes back to the school board to look at, to understand, and to continue to work through and eventually approve, and then it's rolled out through the administration and stuff. So the strategic plan is really our guiding document.
Well, coming into this, I don't quite understand what the strategic plan is, but time-wise, it is kind of funny to me that it's being done right now. I mean, maybe there's months that go by to finalize it, but it was hard to find information about that. Just the last strategic plan was on the internet, on the ISD website. And it says here, last one was created in May, created by a core planning team of parents, community members, business leaders, students, staff, and teachers established the district roadmap. That is awesome. But then it was like dated October 31st. So the time-wise, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I am curious to find out why. We have a low percentage to attract, retain, and develop high-quality staff. It was at 9.5%. Well, right now it's an employee's market. We need to pay our good teachers more and all their support staff, and then listen to what the community wants. And I look forward to knowing more about this when I'm appointed.
I love that our district takes the time to listen to feedback from parents, teachers, students, community members, and business leaders. But not only that, there's an action plan that's created. I attended the World Cafe at Rogers High School last week, and I'll be attending the rest of the cafes this month because each part of the district has similar and different concerns. And as a board member, it will be important for me to hear multiple perspectives. Looking at our current plan, there are wonderful ideas and goals that were met, and we have more work to do with the 2023 learner outcomes, such as ensuring that all kids are ready to read, are reading at grade level in 3rd grade, and making sure that kindergartners are school ready.
You know, I looked over the strategic plan, and we used to put those together at our business. And one of the things that we always look at is, have we met our strategic plan? So you have to do an assessment afterwards. You know, we're on the 5th year now of the strategic plan. Did we have some results from that? Did we work the plan effectively? Were changes made? And you know, one of the things that I look at is, from a community standpoint, you are all looking at what is the output of the school? What's the results? And I was doing some research, and back in the 80s, a report was put together, Nation at Risk. Paul Copperman was quoted as saying, for the first time in history of our country, the educational skills of one generation will not surpass, will not equal, will not even approach those of their parents. Question is, are we there? And what can we do to improve overall academics? And all of us have seen, when we go to a fast food store, somebody will have trouble making change without a calculator or the cash register doing it for us. I train engineers, well, I used to, I'm retired now, but we see a definite deficit gap with the education of some of our children coming out of our schools. And so I think our strategic plan, along with the community expectations, business expectations, because as a business owner, I own a small business now, you want your employees to know basic skills. And so what can we do for the Elk River School District to improve overall academic scores, and how will that strategic plan work within our community to the benefit of all?
Okay, thank you, everybody. Next question. Issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion are at the forefront of a national debate. What are your thoughts on this issue as they relate to serving on the ISD 728 school board? I'm going to read that again. Issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion are at the forefront of a national debate. What are your thoughts on this issue as they relate to serving on the ISD 728 school board? I'm going to go right back to John.
Well, the diversity, inclusion, equity movement is very alive in corporations, and basically what that does is it splits up into different groups, and it depends on how that's implemented. For example, in my experience, I've worked over in Europe and Asia. I lived over there, worked with multinational teams in a very diverse environment. When I went to Europe, I only had 6 weeks to get there, and then I was thrown into a whole new subset of employees, learning an Italian business system and all the works, learning a whole different culture. So I've lived diversity in terms of international experience, traveled all over the world, working with different teams. And one of the things that we have to be careful of this whole movement is dividing people up into groups, because we're all one common humanity. And what happens is, when we create different groups, they become grievance groups. And we need to work with our children in showing them that they're one humanity and one people group. I mean, even though we're made up of multiple people groups around the world, but the thing is kindness, love, respect, and serving are all common values that we hold in this district. And so I would hope that we be careful not to create a structure of division based upon diversity, inclusion, and equity.
People get to have their own personal beliefs, but to truly prepare students for life outside school, it will be so vital for them to have the opportunity to learn about and interact with lots of different people. We leave students with a huge disadvantage in the workforce if they cannot work together with others. From an equity perspective, we need to be able to make reasonable accommodations for learners as much as possible. An example of providing equity in schools is we have much of the same expectations for students, but a student with a disability might have para support or different expectations for assignments. As a social worker, this area is very important to me.
Well, I like what John said quite a bit. I do feel like there's been a lot of division created, and we need to end that. There was a teacher, Troy Johnson, who spoke to some freshmen at the Elk River High School, to 14-year-olds, for advocating violence against white European business owners as a result of racial justice. To me, that's CRT practice. That is not uniting the kids. There should be hope for the future. Our school board voted last year to spend $25,000 for a policy equity report. And on page 6, it recommends CRT by name. I am for the FAIR program, something that unites all the kids together as a pro-human approach. We do not need to go backwards, and everybody is welcome and respected. I have one more, let's see, May of 2021, there was a walkout protest that was kind of an anti-law enforcement flavor. Students who have family in law enforcement chose to stay home from school that day for fear of being called a racist. Result was a group of students on social media who called out the students who did not participate by name. And some students were so traumatized that they left the district. No, that is not unity. We can do better for ISD 728. Thank you.
I believe we are here for all students. We are a public entity funded by the taxpayers. So all students that come here have a right to an education and to be treated with respect. And if they look different or they act different or they have a different culture or religion, we need to value and respect that. It's right in our core values. It's in our mission. It's who we are, all students. And also understand that state law and state statute also sets us in place and requires us.
Let's go down to Crissy.
Thank you. Equity is giving each student what they need so that they can achieve the high academic standards that this district holds for all students. Diversity needs to be respected in our schools. Respecting differences is also a part of the job of the school board. Inclusion is making sure that everyone feels welcomed, and making sure that our policies meet those definitions is the job of a school board member.
Boy, it's fun having a long time to think about this. I was raised in the 60s and the 70s, and we talked a lot about equality in the 60s and the 70s. And I can't tell you if that was controversial at the time or not. It wasn't to us. You know, we were kids, and we didn't notice any division in our homes or anything about conversations we were having. But I remember the 60s, and I remember Martin Luther King, and I remember the civil rights movement and so on. And we were being taught about equality and that we were all the same underneath our skin and so on. And so that I was raised in that culture, and I believed that to my core. Whatever equity is, I know that there's a problem in society about the way we use the word. I'm not entirely sure the word equity means what we've been using it to mean. Sometimes when I hear people talk about it, like the vice president this past week, talking about the word equity, it means sort of perhaps maybe picking a winner and calling it equality. And I don't think that's what it means. Now, equity and equality, whatever it does mean, I know that we love our kids. And I know that we are for our kids. Whatever our kids are like and whatever they look like, we are for our kids. I can tell you in the house that I grew up in, which was a Mexican house, and in the house that I live in, which has Caucasians and this Mexican guy, and an African-American daughter, we just love. And as a school board member, I hope I can just love.
I think when you talk about all of these things, I mean, what we're really talking about is kindness, right? Kindness and respect, and that's what really we need to teach all of our students, to have kindness and respect for each other. And it's hard to argue that is really a path forward to make things work inside our district and out in the world. And I think sometimes when you talk about equity, people forget that there's multiple sides to it. Equity isn't just helping the struggling student. Equity is also making sure that the district provides the opportunities for those students who excel. Making sure that we have those AP classes, making sure we have all those things too, so that everybody gets what they need to make them the best that they can be, regardless of what that is.
Thank you. All right. Next question, some budgeting issues. What is your top priority regarding public school spending? What is your top priority? I'm going to start with Mindy.
My top priority is reading. All kids at 3rd grade should be able to read at their grade level at 100%. Reading is the foundation of all education, in my opinion, and I think that's everything. Thank you.
When I look at a budget and our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, first we have to live within our means. We have to be able to balance our budget while educating students. So I look at things like mandates, unfunded mandates, things like that, and how they affect us. And then how are we going to work with our legislators to try to free that stuff up? We need to continue to work down there and have more control of our budget. We answer to you, the taxpayers, so if we are given a budget with some high-level parameters, and then if we're not doing our job, you vote people out and vote new people in. So being able to free up them mandates are huge. There are so many of them. We're about all students here and learning for everybody, but when the mandates come in and you have to pull dollars around, it makes it very complicated.
All the way back down to Kim.
School district budgets are unlike any other budget you've ever seen. I remember when I first got elected to the board, I was talking to our CFO, and he had previously volunteered to help on the financial side at another district. And I'm like, well, we're good. We do these huge budgets at our company all the time, and I got this. And he's like, yeah, you have no idea. The different buckets and the different regulations and how you can and can't spend money, and also the fact that there's very little way for us to produce revenue. Our revenue is very set. You know, a lot of times in the business world, well, is there a different way we can increase our revenue, raise prices, do all that stuff? So we're really looking on the budget side and how we manage our resources. So in the district, the majority of the money goes to personnel. It goes to our staff, our teachers, everybody in the buildings. That's about 76% of our money goes to that. So it's really about how we manage those positions, how we can use the resources that we have to the best ability to best serve our students and the district as a whole.
Thank you. My first thought is retention. In the business community, we have learned in the last 2 years that if we expect to be staffed, then we have to pay people more money. And that's just the bottom line. And so again, what I've been hearing from the teachers that were willing to talk to me about this issue, they felt that there were financial issues in the classroom. They were under budgeted. There used to be classroom budgets of like $500 once upon a time per classroom, and then it went down to $200. And I apologize for not having an exact number, but I've been hearing that's just been going down. And so for the classrooms to have more money, for the teachers to be able to do more with their students, so that they can purchase things that are necessary that they used to be able to do that they can't, that is a focus to me. I think I mentioned, and again, retaining good teachers and getting more teachers is important. I've talked to lots of parents over the summer, and we did a lot of parades and stuff, and the parents would walk right up to us and they say, I see you're for this and I see you're for this, but what about choir robes? What about the arts? What about music? Money's always cut back. My child wants to be in band, but we can't afford the instrument and things like that. And I recognize what you just said, Kim, about, we're stuck with where budgets are, but having another set of eyes on the budget can't hurt. To be able to look and see where we can move money around or change things, because clearly some people feel left out.
Like Shane said, a lot of that money, and I think Kim said, a lot of that money is mandated. So I, as well with Shane and others, would really like to work with the legislature to work on that funding so that we can get more control of the money for our schools. Currently, being a substitute teacher in our schools, speaking from personal experience, where I currently see the most need for our funding is in special education. If we could provide more money there and more staffing there, that also causes less stress on our teachers. And our students then would get all the services, hopefully, that they would need. And that gives our classroom teachers in our general ed accelerated students more time to work there. So if we start at special ed, it impacts every single student in this district.
When it comes to budgeting, one of the things I did is did a little homework. I called up one of our legislators and he put me in touch with the school guru down in St. Paul. So made a trip down to St. Paul and he sat me down with the budget and how a school is funded, and it's worse than the IRS and all the tax forms that go along with that. It is. It's a complex creature. And it's like, how on earth, and I have an accounting degree, and it's like I struggled. But anyways, from that, one of the things that we have to do, I agree with Jay Bryan on terms of retention, retaining good employees is tough. I mean, we're having that problem in our companies. How do you retain employees? Part of it's work environment. I've heard firsthand stories from special ed teachers that are actually getting hurt at school. And how can we make a safe work environment, make it so it's palatable for the teachers and the other staff that work there? It's a tough question. So my background is in business development. That's what I did before I retired. And business development is one where you go out and talk to customers, you find out problems, and then you figure out solutions, and then you go and sell them. And so one of the things that you have to do in business development is go out and talk to people. In terms of solving a problem like this is going and talking to staff, figuring out what the problems are and putting together solutions. And I have relationships with 4 of our legislators in our school district right now. And I know that working with them, we can get things done. And it's going to be tough, but it can be done. It's going to take a lot of effort and work, but working with state legislatures, all the complexity. Thank you.
I know that school funding document he talked about was like 276 pages or something like that. It's crazy big. The budget is pretty set, with 82% of the budget being spent on educational instruction and student support services. A big issue is the government is not fully funding special education services as promised. Each special education student has a big team of people to meet their IEP goals. I know this because 3 of my children have had or have an IEP. The need is only going to grow for special education. Because public schools educate every child and covering special education costs is a federal mandate, all districts are required to pay these costs. But state and federal funding doesn't cover the actual costs, ensuring that each child with special needs gets what they need, so districts are forced to pull money from other places. If state and federal money actually funded this mandate, it would relieve tremendous stress on district finances. I look forward to working with our legislators on this issue.
Thank you. What role does our local education system have in preparing students for their future as employees, professionals, business owners, and parents? I'm going to start with Shane and just pass it all the way down. I can. What role does our local education system have in preparing students for their future as employees, professionals, business owners, and parents?
In my opinion, they are the key to it. They are the most successful point because they have them at the youngest age to teach the basic skills. How do we interact with each other? How do we communicate? How do we do this? And as we go through the grade levels, that continues to grow. And at some point, we start to teach them the skills they need. And that's what our CTE program has done. We've worked with local businesses to say, how do we prepare these students to work on these lawnmowers, to work on these trucks, to do all of this stuff? And the businesses know what they need, and our teachers know how to teach. So when we collaborate together with them, we can teach the skills to the students so they can walk out of our school district with amazing skills, be on the front side and learning, as well as preparing them for college, if that's what they're doing as well, is making sure that they're prepared and ready for it. So I think it is the most important part. I think it takes collaboration with businesses and everybody to be part of it.
Well, I'm trying to think. I think that the tech programs do a lot for real work labor jobs. We need to bring those back. Life experience, learning a lot. Teachers offer all those things. So we just need to give them credit for that. I don't really have. No, thank you.
Social emotional learning, or SEL, is being falsely presented by some people. Mr. Rogers made an entire career around SEL. He taught kids to understand their emotions and behaviors, show empathy for others, and nurture relationships. In the workforce, these are called soft skills. They're essential for good working environments, healthy families, and strong functioning communities. I believe schools are a great place to learn and practice these skills for our learners.
In terms of roles of employees, you know, and in the sense, employees can be either professional or, you know, you could have factory workers, blue collar, white collar. In reality, all those jobs are important, and schools can help basically provide a foundation and the expectations of a business owner like Shane or Mindy have. You know, when an employee is hired, they're able to actually follow orders and follow instructions and get things done, because ultimately you have to make money. In terms of business owners, one of the things the schools can do is set up a, you know, like a senior high finance course to help them learn how to balance a checkbook, you know, do basic accounting skills, understand profit and loss, and have some acumen for handling money. In terms of parents, you know, that's done.
The local education system, along with our parents and our communities, have a very large part in preparing our students for the future. We have a very large job to ensure that our students are ready for college or career technical jobs that they are going to. And that is a huge part of the school board, as well as our teachers. Helping students learn social skills so that they can become productive citizens when they leave our schools.
To some degree, I think our schools are doing a good job of preparing our kids for the future, and some of the ideas have been discussed. I do personally like spending more time with options for students that are not going to go on to college. And I know that they exist, and I know that we're doing some of that, but working closely with businesses, getting more businesses involved with the last couple of years of school with the students so that they can see that there's other opportunities. Not to say that going on to college and getting degrees and so on isn't important, but I do know in today's society that it's not for everybody, and sometimes those kids are marginalized. But if there's one thing that I think that would really be helpful, and to whatever degree schools are doing it, I'm grateful, but it's anything that we can do to help children to communicate with each other face to face instead of on social media only. I'm a little concerned for the next generation.
Well, I think this is what our goal is from the minute that the kids step in kindergarten, right? This is our main goal, is to get them to a point where they can go out into the world and be successful. And I think if you even listen to everybody's introductions up here and the number of people that grew up here, graduated here, have grandchildren here that are staying here, I mean, and that's what our goal is too, right? That they feel connected, they feel good about the community they have, and they want to stay here and give back and continue that cycle down the road. So I really think, I mean, this question is what it's all about from the minute that they step into our buildings.
All right, thank you, everybody. Those are our 6 prepared questions. And we have a large number of questions that are coming from the floor and some that were submitted through the Chamber's website or through email before this evening. Absolutely do not have time to get through anywhere near all the questions that have been submitted. So I'm going to grab a few here and try to find questions that maybe haven't been touched on already. So I apologize if I can't get to your question. There's no agenda involved in not getting to your question. This is just the logistics of doing one of these. We're going to try to hold these answers to 1 minute per person. This one I'm going to throw to Sarah first. You addressed it a little bit, and I'd like to have everybody flesh out somewhat on this issue. It's an important issue that is in the media a great deal, and that's why I've picked it. Can you define what social emotional learning is and how it connects to soft skills employers state many new hires lack? So this is about SEL, social emotional learning, and how it connects to the soft skills. And as I said, I'm going to start with Sarah.
Oh, I could talk all day about this. I'm a therapist, and I can tell you that this is an issue for a lot of kids. I have a full caseload, and my wait list is astronomical, and this is one of the biggest things that we work on. It's learning to recognize your emotions. It's learning to sit with your emotions and not have big reactions. It's learning how to get along with people. It's learning how to be a productive member in society. And so all of that, as a 3-year-old, translates to you being able to be in the workplace. And I think we do it all the time. We don't even realize we're doing it. And for some reason, it got hijacked and has become this thing that it isn't. So I can give you resources, or we can look up resources that are actually what social emotional skills are, but they're very, very important.
Yes, common sense social emotional learning, that has gone to the wayside, I believe, because of COVID and the mask. There was a disconnect with the students that did have to wear a mask. It is just real life, less technology, being with people. I don't know if it's, we do need to support those that have more of a problem, but I do believe that education should basically be with the public school education, normal common sense stuff. If you need to go to a therapist, those absences would be excused. It sounds very nice, but I do worry that there could be an overreach with that. It is just common sense, though, and I guess that's what I bring the most to the table. Thanks.
Social emotional learning is social skills. That's really basically what it is. Seeing the curriculum that we teach here and what we do. At a kindergarten level, how do you interact? How do you hand a ball? How do you get along? 4th grade level, again, communicating. When there's conflict, how do you work through it? If you can't, go to the teacher. All the way up through the grade levels, so that when I have employees and there's a dispute or an issue, they can work through it. Think about it. They can act respectful to each other. And if they have differences and they disagree, they are respectful, and if they can't, they know how to bring things forward so that when resolution is given, they can move on and continue to work through. It is basic social skills.
SEL, we're familiar with. My wife and I adopted 3 children from foster care, so we've been to many therapists over the years. And so we understand one of the goals of SEL is regulation. So sometimes the children kind of go out of control, right? And you're trying to get them to get in touch with their emotions and try to calm themselves down, looking at calming techniques and so on. And if that's what SEL is, as Shane described as social skills, that's great. And there's an organization called Castle, and if they expand that into other areas, it could turn into something that we don't want. But the core idea is focus on tools, skill sets.
Currently, these are the following things that are focused on in regards to SEL in our school district: goal setting, relationship building, empathy, conflict resolution, problem solving, and teamwork. As a current substitute in our district, I can tell you the following things that I have actually taught in our classrooms in the middle schools are organization and goal setting. And these are things that I believe in our community are completely very important for our students to be productive members of any company or just being a citizen in our community.
Yeah, I think we're all going to find ourselves in mostly in agreement on this. As I said at the end of the last answer, teaching, allowing our kids to have opportunities to relearn how to have face-to-face communication, the social skills that are necessary for that should definitely be our goal. And we're at a time, given all the other technologies that we have right now, that any child could lose some of those skills. And so I'm certainly comfortable with this and for this. I have an autistic grandchild in the system, and this is used with him. So.
Yeah, like Brian said, I think that we all have a good understanding what it does look like now and what we want it to look like. You know, those teamwork, personal responsibility, you know, social skills that make us all better. We all know that going out in the world, that every coworker that we're ever going to have is not going to be, you know, every once in a while we're going to run into a difficult one, but we still have to work with them. And those are the skills that we're really trying to reinforce, and how do we get through those situations.
All right, thank you. This will be another shot at a 60-second answer, so I apologize for the short time frame on these. Do you feel that you should hold Dr. Bittman, the school district superintendent, accountable for reading, writing, and math scores? Let's take Dr. Bittman's name out of it. Should a school district superintendent be held accountable for reading, writing, math scores, etc.? Let's start right in the middle with John.
This is why you elect a school board. They're accountable.
I agree. The school board's #1 employee is the superintendent. So, yeah, I do believe that we hold the superintendent accountable for reading, writing, math scores.
Yes, we hold the superintendent accountable.
Yes, the superintendent is responsible for providing the culture and managing the day-to-day operations of the district. The school board is there to provide policies for the entire school district, including the superintendent, to work within. We provide the roadmap. How they implement it is the superintendent's responsibility, and to make the district better in a collaborative group.
Absolutely. The superintendent is head of operations. He is in charge of the entire district and what happens. It is the board's role to set the vision. It is his role to roll it out. He has the experience along with his cabinet administration on educational services, and it's our role to evaluate him. That's how he's held accountable right now, and that's how he should continue to be held accountable through the school board.
Yep, the school board does hire or fire the superintendent. Hopefully we can work out things, but ultimately the school board is responsible for most of that.
Yes, I disagree with everyone. Best part about going last.
Okay, one final question. How much say should parents have in what is being taught to their children? And I'm going to start right down here with Kim.
Obviously, we're always looking for input on things happening in the district. We've gone out for input, obviously, with all our community cafes, what our district should look like, what programs we should have. There's thousands of opportunities, even at your school level, at the district level, to get involved, make your opinions heard, do all of that stuff. There's also a number of regulations that the school district has to live within, and sometimes I know that those don't align with what parents want. That doesn't mean that we're not listening, that we're not trying to work within those and really hear the entirety of the district and make decisions based on what's best for the district as a whole. And parents should be involved, should know what's going on, and that happens anywhere. Everybody's been open. I know the district's open, the teachers are open, your children should be open to give you a lot of that information also.
I've heard loud and clear since last January that parents want to be heard and that they don't feel heard. And it's actually why I'm running. It is the reason why I started running, because I heard that parents didn't feel that they were being heard either at school board meetings or in cafes or whatever the situation was, whatever the opportunities were, that their voice wasn't mattering. Now, their voice might very well have been mattering, but I can tell you they didn't feel it. And so, if nothing else, I'm here today to say to parents that I'm listening. I know that there's other people running that feel that parents do have the say of what happens with their children in schools. And I know that they want to collaborate with teachers to do a better job.
I believe that as a school board, we have the responsibility of providing a diverse education. I do also believe that parents should and do have the option to opt out of topics that do not fit with their family values. Knowing that not all family values are the same, we provide a well-rounded education, and then it is the parents' opportunity to decide what values fit within their family and not, and to work with the schools and teachers to opt out of anything that doesn't fit their family values.
Minnesota state statute requires a district have what's called a district advisory committee. It's in state statute. And that should be comprised up to 2/3 parents, ideally, and 1/3 staff for curriculum review and selection, to propose to the board. Whether that happened this year, not sure. But in statute, it's very important to have parents involved in the curriculum selection for the school district. So that means all parents should have an opportunity, and taxpayers and constituents, not just parents. So in terms of the curriculum at large, they had a week review cycle for the current curriculum this year, and most parents weren't able to provide feedback because a lot of us worked. There wasn't enough time. So I think that was a thing that I've heard from several parents and constituents.
I think now more than ever, it's easy to find the information about what your students are learning on Schoology and Parent Portal, and you can access it at the state level. And I think part of being a good parent is just knowing what your children are learning and being involved, and I think there's lots of opportunities in our district for parents to be involved.
Well, this is the reason why I am running as well. I believe that parents' voices are not being heard. When parents started attending school board meetings, the district, the board, they decided to, the public comment is not recorded. It used to be twice a month that you could address the board with any grievances. August 23rd of 2021, they got rid of it, and that's when I said, guess what? I'm running. My husband was like, what? but I am going to be the parent's voice. I am that mama bear. I've been watching what's going around the country with comprehensive sex ed, CRT, whether it's here or not, it's not supposed to be, but I will expose that through transparency. I firmly believe that parents are the experts of their children, not the school board or the teachers union. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
I absolutely believe parents should be involved at many levels. So when MDE is putting together a curriculum review, let's use social studies example, they put it out, parents need to understand it. That's their time to reach back to their representatives down there and provide their feedback and their input. Because once it's approved by MDE and comes down to us, we have to implement it. Again, parents should continue to work. If there's things directly in the curriculum that they don't like, we can opt out of it. If it's particular to your, whatever situation might be, we can work with you to do that. And more importantly, parents need to have the conversations with their students. Mine in particular have come home and learned some things in math, and I say, okay, that's interesting. I understand you learned that, but here's what I learned. Here's a perspective this way. And I understand that as a public education, my kids are not going to be taught 100% everything the way I believe it is. I also believe that that gives them a good skill set to learn things differently and to maybe think differently than I do.
Thanks, everybody. We have a few minutes left, so what I'm going to do is be able to give everybody 60 seconds to just address the audience in whatever fashion you would like as a final comment. But before we do that, I want to thank each of you for coming tonight. It's clear from the answers that you've heard, this is a difficult job, and this is a critical job. And so for those of you that are currently on the school board, thank you for doing a difficult, critical job. And for those of you who want to be on the school board, thank you for being willing to do a difficult and critical job. I'm going to give each of you 60 seconds now to address the room with final comment.
Again, I've served on the board for 12 years, excited for the opportunity of 4 more. Things that I do well. I bring my business mind to things. I know the facts. I make informed decisions. I can be reached via email, phone. You call the office, they will transfer you to me. You can reach out to me any way, shape, or form that works for you. Things that I do not believe in. I do not believe in CRT and that it should be taught here, and it is not. I do believe that all students that walk through our doors have the right to a fair education. I do believe in a balanced budget and understanding our fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to balance the budget and to educate our students.
I believe through curriculum transparency and removing obstacles to parent participation at school board meetings, I believe we can meet constituent and teacher coalition by empowering parents to be active in their child's education. I am the parent's choice candidate and believe that parents are the experts. I do believe that we need to be careful with the increase of homeschooled or private schooled. That will affect the budget. We do need to listen to our constituents before we lose more and more students to our Elk River district. And I'm Mindy Freiberg. My website is Mindy Freiberg for ISD728.com. And vote for me on November 8th. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for taking the time out of your evening to listen to us. What I bring to the table is I'm a really good listener. I love to have open conversations with people. I value multiple perspectives, and I really value teamwork, and I'm looking forward to working with the community members.
I want to thank the Chamber, Debbie and John, for the time that you put into this and the people that showed up to listen and online. And I just want to say one of the things in closing is what we're all after is best-in-class academics. I really believe that. We want our learners to be number one. And if we can have our school district best in class, I think we're going to pull in other students from other areas. And it's going to take some effort to get there because we're behind. You know, I think the focus on K through 3 is extremely important because that sets the foundation up for later on. And we got to get our kiddos up to speed in learning those areas. So I really believe that after talking to hundreds of people, we should really focus in on the academics, the core academics, the 3 R's. And I think we got to be careful. There's a social agenda that's trying to be pushed through Pelsby, and hopefully that'll be stopped. And thank you.
Thank you, John, Debbie, and the community members for being here tonight. I believe in our public schools. I have a passion for working with our students. I believe in our teachers. And our schools cannot run without all of our staff, paras, custodians, cooks, ground crew, and parents. And as a school board member, I would like to listen to all of you and work with the other school board members to continue to make ISD 728 the best that it can be.
Thank you. As I've mentioned before, I started down this road that I wanted to be a voice for people that felt marginalized. I also want to serve the ISD 728 employees who have been underserved. I want to be a school board member who is visible, who does a better job. If I had a mirror right now, I just want you to know I'm looking in the mirror saying, I need to do a better job being involved in this district and showing up at events and being a better volunteer and encouraging other parents to be better volunteers too. I want to be a parent and a grandpa who's involved inside the 4 walls, not just at home at the dinner table. I want to encourage more parents to be involved, as I said, and I want to let anyone who will listen to know that whether parents are welcome to participate or not isn't the problem, so much as that many don't feel invited. And I want to change the way we welcome new perspectives to the table by being a new perspective at this table. And my name is J. Brian Calva, and I hope you'll vote for me.
Just want to thank everybody for setting this up and for everybody participating up here and in the audience tonight and giving us this opportunity. I've really enjoyed the last 4 years serving on the board, even with all the turmoil in the world for the last few years and the difficulties that it's brought. You know, a lot of my background in helping run a construction company has brought me a lot of skills that transfer over, whether it's working with government agencies, budgets, unions, a wide variety of personalities, and making it all come together and work. It has really given me the foundation and then the experience I've had during my first term to really understand the inner workings of our school district and how it really works. You know, in the last few years have been difficult, but it has been absolutely worth it to be on the board and everything that we've done, just to make sure that we are really producing well-rounded community members back out into the world. And I would be honored to serve again.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking all of our candidates. And on behalf of the Elk River Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank all of you for coming tonight. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it edifying. And if our candidates are free to mingle and meet and greet out in the vestibule, that would probably be appreciated. So thank you all for coming.